The gathering storm. The great hall was filled with angry voices. 12 different alien species sat in their special chairs, all of them shouting at the single human woman standing in the center. The room looked like a giant crystal bowl, and the sounds bounced off the walls, making everything louder and more frightening. Ambassador Chen Wei stood perfectly still. She was a small woman compared to most of the aliens around her, but she did not look scared. Her black hair was pulled back tight, and her dark eyes watched each speaker carefully. She wore a simple blue uniform with the Earth symbol on her chest. 2,000 years of peace, screamed the Vector representative. It looked like a giant bug with sharp claws and too many eyes. Humans have broken our treaty. You have sent ships into spaces where you promised never to go. The other aliens made sounds of agreement. Some clicked their claws, others flashed bright colors, and the big rock-like corvin creatures made deep rumbling noises that shook the floor. For 2,000 years, these alien races had kept humans locked in a small part of space. The treaty that did this was called the Terran Armistice, and it was signed after the first war between humans and aliens. The aliens had gotten used to thinking humans were weak. They forgot why the treaty had been made in the first place. They forgot why their ancestors had been so eager to stop fighting humans all those years ago. A tall, glowing alien called an ethereal spoke next. Its voice sounded like music, but the words were not kind. Humans must be punished for breaking the sacred agreement. You are a young race. You do not understand your place in the galaxy. More angry sounds filled the hall. The aliens were working themselves up into a fighting mood. They had grown strong and confident over the past 2,000 years. Their armies were huge, their weapons were powerful, and they controlled most of the galaxy. What could one small human woman do against all of them? Chen Wei waited until the noise died down. When she spoke, her voice was calm and clear. Every alien in the room could hear her perfectly. The armistice was signed when humanity was young, she said. We were new to space travel. We were new to meeting other races. We made mistakes and we learned from them. She paused and looked directly at each group of aliens. But you seem to have forgotten why that armistice was necessary. The room became very quiet. Something in the human's voice made them uncomfortable, though they could not say why. The Vector representative waved its claws angrily. We remember. Humans were violent and dangerous. That is why we contained you. That is why we keep you in your small corner of space. Chen Wei nodded slowly. Yes, we were dangerous. But do you remember why we fought? Do you remember who started that war? An old Corvin leader, its rocky skin scarred from many battles, shifted uncomfortably. That was long ago. The details do not matter now. The details matter very much, Chen Wei replied. Let me remind you, humans had just learned to travel between stars. We were excited to meet other intelligent life. We sent out peaceful ships with messages of friendship. Her voice grew harder. Your ancestors attacked those ships without warning. They destroyed our colonies. They killed millions of humans who had never hurt anyone. The aliens began to look nervous. These were facts they preferred not to think about. We fought back, Chen Wei continued. We fought with everything we had. And when you realized you could not win, you begged for peace. You offered us control of the entire galaxy just to make us stop fighting. A young ethereal flickered with confused colors. But humans accepted the treaty. You agreed to stay in your assigned space. Chen Wei smiled, but it was not a happy smile. We accepted the treaty because we are not monsters. We could have taken everything, but we chose peace instead. We wanted time to grow and learn. We wanted to become better than we were. The Vector representative made a scoffing sound. And now you think you can break the treaty? You think you can expand into our space whenever you want? The treaty has already been broken, Chen Wei said quietly. But not by us. The aliens looked confused. They started talking among themselves, asking what she meant. Chen Wei pulled out a small device and pressed a button. Holographic images appeared in the air above her head. The images showed alien ships attacking human vessels in neutral space. They showed alien raids on human colonies that were supposed to be protected by the treaty. For the last 50 years you have been testing us, she said.
Small attacks.
Border raids. Ships that disappear in neutral space. You wanted to see if humans had grown soft during the long peace. The evidence was clear. The aliens had indeed been breaking the treaty little by little, thinking humans would not fight back. We sent complaints through proper channels. Chen Wei continued. We asked for meetings. We tried to solve these problems peacefully, but you ignored us. You thought we were too weak to do anything about it. The Corvin leader rumbled angrily. So what if we took a few ships? So what if we claimed some empty systems? Humans are just one small race. We are 12 great civilizations. Chen Wei's smile grew colder. Yes, you are 12 great civilizations. And 2,000 years ago, you were even greater. The Corvan Empire covered half the galaxy. The Vectar swarm had trillions of warriors. The ethereal collective could bend reality itself. She gestured to the images floating above her. Look at yourselves now. Your empires are smaller. Your armies are weaker. Your technology has barely advanced. The images changed to show human space with its busy trade routes and thriving colonies. While you have grown weaker, we have grown stronger. The aliens did not want to admit it, but she was right. They had become comfortable and lazy during the long peace. They fought small wars among themselves, but nothing serious. Nothing that pushed them to improve. Humans have spent 2,000 years learning, Chen Wei said. Learning from our mistakes. Learning from yours. Learning from every alien race we have met through trade and diplomacy. We have not been sitting idle in our corner of space. A new alien spoke up. This was a Zephyrian with wings like a giant butterfly and a voice like wind chimes. What are you saying, human? Are you threatening us? Chen Wei shook her head.
I am not threatening anyone.
I am simply stating facts. The treaty you loved so much is broken. You broke it, and now you must live with the consequences. The Vectar representative buzzed angrily. We are not afraid of humans. If you want war, we will give you war. 12 races against 1. You cannot win. Chen Wei looked around the room one more time. She saw anger, pride, and certainty in the faces of the alien representatives. They truly believed they would win easily. They had no idea what they were about to face. War it is then, she said simply. But remember when this is over that you chose this path. We offered peace. We kept our word for 2,000 years. You are the ones who decided that was not enough. She turned and walked toward the exit. The aliens shouted threats and insults at her back, but she did not turn around. At the door, she paused and looked back one final time. One more thing, she said. You might want to ask your historians about the last war. Really ask them, find out why your ancestors were so eager to sign that treaty. Find out what humans are capable of when we stop holding back. With that, she left the Great Hall. Behind her, the 12 alien races began to plan for a war they thought would be easy to win. They had no idea that they had just awakened something that had been sleeping peacefully for 2,000 years. Something that was about to remind the galaxy why humans were feared. Echoes of the past deep under the surface of Earth in a place most people never saw. Dr. Sarah Martinez stood in front of a wall covered with glowing screens. The screens showed maps, charts, and numbers that told the story of what happened 2,000 years ago. Around her, dozens of historians and military experts worked frantically, pulling up old records and forgotten files. The news had spread quickly through human space. War was coming. The aliens had finally decided they were tired of the peace treaty and wanted to fight. But unlike the aliens, humans had not forgotten their history. General Harrison, Dr. Martinez called to the tall man in military uniform standing nearby. You need to see this. General Harrison walked over, his boots making sharp sounds on the metal floor. He was a serious man with gray hair and tired eyes. As head of Earth's military planning, he needed to understand exactly what humanity was facing. Show me, he said simply. Dr. Martinez touched one of the screens, and the images changed. Now they showed the galaxy as it looked 2,000 years ago, when humans first met alien races. This is what the galaxy looked like back then, she explained. Look at the size of their empires. The images were shocking. The Corvan Empire was massive, covering nearly half of all known space. Their military had millions of ships and controlled hundreds of worlds. The Vectar swarm was even more frightening. They had so many warriors that their numbers could not be easily counted. The ethereal collective controlled fewer worlds. But their technology was so advanced they seemed like gods. And this, Dr. Martinez said, touching another part of the screen, was human space. The area marked for humans was tiny. Just one solar system with a few small colonies nearby. Compared to the alien empires, humans looked like nothing at all. General Harrison frowned. How did we possibly fight all of them at once? We didn't have a choice, Dr. Martinez replied. They attacked us first, remember? We had just learned to travel between stars. We were excited to make friends with other intelligent species. The screen showed recordings from those early days, human ships broadcasting messages of peace and friendship to anyone who would listen. The aliens saw us as a threat. From the very beginning, she continued, they didn't want new competition. So they decided to destroy us before we could become strong. The next images were harder to look at. They showed the first alien attacks on human colonies. Peaceful settlements burned from orbit. Passenger ships destroyed without warning. Millions of humans killed simply for existing. Our leaders tried to surrender at first, Dr. Martinez said quietly. They offered to leave alien space entirely. They promised humans would never travel beyond our home system again. What happened? General Harrison asked, though he suspected he knew the answer. The aliens said no. They wanted to make an example of us. They wanted to show the galaxy what happened to species that didn't know their place. Dr. Martinez's voice grew angry. They wanted to kill every human alive. The screens now showed Earth itself under attack. Massive alien fleets surrounded the planet, preparing to destroy the birthplace of humanity. It should have been the end of the human story. Instead, it was when humans showed the galaxy what they were really capable of. That's when we stopped trying to run away, Dr. Martinez said. That's when we started fighting back. The next images were almost impossible to believe. Somehow, the tiny human fleet had broken through the alien blockade. Somehow, human ships that should have been helpless against superior alien technology started winning battles. And then the real shock came. Humans began attacking alien worlds. How? General Harrison asked. Their technology was so much better than ours. Dr. Martinez smiled grimly. Because we fought differently. The aliens had rules for war. They had traditions and honor codes. They fought the way their ancestors had fought for thousands of years. She pulled up tactical reports from those ancient battles. Humans had no rules. We used every weapon we could think of. We attacked supply lines. We targeted civilian populations. We used biological weapons, nuclear weapons, anything that would hurt them. The screen showed the results. Within 18 months, the great alien empires were falling apart. Their fleets were destroyed or scattered. Their worlds were burning. Entire species were facing extinction. The Corvan Empire lost 60% of their territory, Dr. Martinez continued. The Vector swarm was reduced to less than 10% of its original size. 3 alien species went completely extinct. 2 more nearly disappeared. General Harrison looked at the numbers with amazement. And then they asked for peace? They begged for peace, Dr. Martinez corrected. They offered humans control of the entire galaxy. They said we could rule everything, take anything we wanted, do whatever we pleased with their peoples. But we said no. Our leaders were smart, Dr. Martinez said. They knew that ruling a hostile galaxy would be impossible. They also knew that humans needed time to grow up. We were too angry, too violent. We needed to learn how to be better. She pulled up the treaty documents from 2,000 years ago, so we accepted a small territory and agreed to stay there. In exchange, the aliens promised to leave us alone. Both sides got what they needed. The aliens got to survive and humans got time to develop. General Harrison studied the old records carefully. And during those 2,000 years, Dr. Martinez touched the screen again, and the images changed to show modern human space. The difference was incredible. Where once humans had a few dozen ships, now they had thousands. Where once they controlled one system, now they had colonies spread across hundreds of worlds. We never stopped learning, she said. We studied every alien technology we could get our hands on. We improved our weapons, our ships, our manufacturing, but most importantly, we learned self-control. She pulled up more recent records. For 50 years, the aliens have been testing us. Small attacks, border raids, ships disappearing in neutral space. Any other race would have fought back immediately. But we didn't. We tried diplomacy first. We filed complaints. We asked for meetings. We did everything possible to avoid war. Dr. Martinez's expression grew cold. The aliens mistook our patience for weakness. General Harrison looked at the current military reports. The numbers were staggering. Human fleets were now larger than the alien empires had been at their peak 2,000 years ago. Human technology had advanced in ways the aliens could not imagine, and unlike their ancestors, modern humans had discipline and training. They have no idea what they're about to face, he said. None at all, Dr. Martinez agreed. They think we're still the same angry children who stumbled into their galaxy 2 millennia ago. They don't realize we've grown up. She pulled up one final image, a comparison between human military strength 2,000 years ago and human military strength today. The difference was so enormous it was hard to process. General, she said quietly, 2,000 years ago, we nearly destroyed them by accident. We were fighting for survival with primitive weapons and no real plan. Now we have the most advanced military in galactic history, and we've had 2,000 years to plan for this exact situation. General Harrison nodded slowly. He was beginning to understand the true scope of what was about to happen. The aliens think they're fighting the same war they won last time. But this time, Dr. Martinez said with a cold smile, humans are ready. Around them, the historians and military experts continued their work, pulling up battle plans that had been refined for centuries, weapon designs that had been perfected in secret, and strategies that had been tested and improved for generations. Humanity had spent 2,000 years preparing for the day when the peace would end. That day had finally come, and the aliens had no idea what they had unleashed. The die is cast. The message arrived at exactly noon Earth time. It came through official channels with all the ceremony and importance that alien races love to use. 12 different species had signed the document, each using their own complex symbols and seals. The message was simple. War had been declared on humanity. Admiral Zhang Mei read the declaration while standing on the bridge of her flagship, the battleship Revenge. Around her, hundreds of officers and crew members worked at their stations preparing for what was about to come. Unlike the aliens who had sent the message, none of the humans looked worried or afraid. Instead, they looked excited. "Admiral," called her communications officer from across the bridge. "We're getting similar reports from all fleet commanders. Second Fleet confirms ready status. Third Fleet reports all ships prepared for combat. 4th through 15th Fleets are standing by for orders." Zhang Mei nodded as she studied the tactical display in front of her. 15 complete fleets, each one bigger than the entire human space navy had been 2,000 years ago. Each one equipped with weapons that would have seemed like magic to their ancestors. The ships were beautiful and terrifying at the same time. The smallest ones were still larger than the alien dreadnoughts of old. The largest ones could destroy planets if necessary. All of them had been built during the Long Peace, hidden in secret shipyards throughout human space. "Signal all fleet commanders," Zhang Mei ordered. "Operation Ragnarok is now active. It's time to remind the galaxy why our ancestors were so eager to sign that armistice." Across human space, the machinery of war began to move. Hidden bases that had been disguised as mining stations suddenly opened up, revealing massive shipyards that had been building warships for centuries. Weapons laboratories released technologies that had been theoretical for generations. Transport ships began moving supplies and personnel to strategic positions throughout the galaxy. But the most important part of the human war machine was already in position. For 2,000 years, human traders and diplomats had traveled throughout alien space. They had set up businesses, established trade routes, and built relationships with local populations. What the aliens didn't know was that many of these humans were actually military intelligence agents. Captain Liu Chen received his activation orders while sitting in a cantina on the Corvan homeworld. To anyone watching, he was just another human trader enjoying a drink after a successful business deal. In reality, he was the commander of a deep cover intelligence network that spanned half the galaxy. He finished his drink calmly, paid his bill, and walked back to his small cargo ship. Once inside, he activated a hidden communication system and began sending coded messages to agents throughout Corvan space. Within hours, every major military installation, government building, and industrial center in the Corvan Empire would be under human surveillance. Similar scenes played out across the galaxy. Human civilians revealed their true purpose and began activities that would have shocked their alien neighbors. The friendly merchant who had been selling Earth goods for decades was actually mapping defensive positions. The quiet diplomat who attended every social function was recording military communications. The helpful engineer who had been improving alien technology was actually installing backdoors and weaknesses. The aliens had spent 2,000 years thinking they were watching humanity. In reality, humanity had been watching them. Admiral Zhang Mei studied the reports coming in from across the galaxy. Every alien fleet movement was being tracked. Every military communication was being intercepted. Every important alien leader was under surveillance. The humans knew exactly where their enemies were and what they were planning. "Admiral," her tactical officer reported, "the alien fleets are moving exactly as predicted. The Corvan 8th Fleet is heading for the Centauri system. The Vectar assault swarms are massing near the Rigel sector. The ethereal battle groups are forming up in the Vega region." Zhang Mei smiled. The alien battle plans were more than 200 years old. Human intelligence had stolen them decades ago and had been preparing countermeasures ever since. "Deploy 3rd Fleet to Centauri," she ordered. "Send 5th and 6th Fleets to Rigel. 9th Fleet will handle the ethereals at Vega." She paused, looking at the galaxy-wide tactical display. "And activate the sleeper protocols." That last command sent a chill through the bridge crew, even though they had been expecting it. The sleeper protocols were humanity's most closely guarded secret. For centuries, human engineers and technicians had been working on alien ships, alien weapons, and alien infrastructure. They had been making improvements and repairs that seemed helpful at the time. In reality, they had been installing remote control systems. Lieutenant Commander Park pressed a series of buttons on her console. Across the galaxy, hidden programs activated inside alien military systems. Weapons that had been built with human help suddenly stopped working. Ships that had been upgraded with human technology began receiving new orders. Defense systems that had been improved by human engineers started targeting their own fleets. The aliens were about to discover that much of their military equipment now belonged to humanity. But the real surprise was still to come. The aliens thought they were fighting a war against one species confined to a small corner of the galaxy. They had no idea that humans had been preparing for this conflict for 2,000 years. They didn't know that human manufacturing capacity was now larger than all alien industry combined. They couldn't imagine that human technology had advanced far beyond anything they thought possible. Most importantly, they had forgotten that humans were very good at holding grudges. "Admiral," the communications officer called out, "we're receiving a priority message from Earth Command." Zhang Mei accepted the message and read it quickly. Her expression grew colder as she processed the contents. "What are our orders, Admiral?" asked her executive officer. Zhang Mei looked around the bridge at her crew. These men and women had trained their entire lives for this moment. Their parents and grandparents had prepared for this war. Their great-grandparents had survived the last war and sworn that humanity would never again be caught unprepared. "Our orders are simple," she said. "No alien military ship is to be allowed to reach human space. No alien world that supports military action against humanity is to remain functional, and no alien leader who voted for this war is to remain in power." She paused, letting the weight of her words sink in. "We are authorized to use any means necessary to achieve these objectives." The bridge grew very quiet. Everyone understood what those orders meant. Humanity was not just going to defend itself this time. It was going to make sure this kind of war could never happen again. "Time to battle stations?" asked the executive officer. Zhang Mei checked the chronometer. The first alien fleets would reach their targets in less than 6 hours. By then, humanity needed to be ready to show the galaxy exactly how much had changed in 2,000 years. "All ships to battle stations," she ordered. "Launch all fighters. Activate all weapon systems. And send a message to the alien fleets." "What should the message say, Admiral?" Zhang Mei thought for a moment, remembering the words of Ambassador Chen Wei from the Galactic Council. The aliens had been warned. They had been given every chance to avoid this conflict. Now they would learn the consequences of their choice. "Tell them that the 2,000-year armistice is officially over," she said. "Tell them that humanity thanks them for the long vacation. And tell them that we hope they enjoyed their time as the dominant powers in this galaxy, because that time has now ended." The message was sent across all communication channels, in all alien languages. Within minutes, every alien fleet commander in the galaxy would know that the war had truly begun. And then humanity would show them what 2,000 years of preparation could accomplish. The galaxy burns again. The first battle happened in the Centauri expanse, exactly where human intelligence had predicted it would. Fleet Admiral Petrov watched from the bridge of his flagship, Retribution, as his sensors detected the approaching Corvan fleet. 800 ships, all painted in the traditional war colors of the Corvan Empire. Massive vessels that had terrorized the galaxy for thousands of years. The Corvans expected to find a few human patrol boats and maybe a small mining station. They thought this would be an easy victory that would set the tone for the rest of the war. What they found instead was the entire Third Fleet waiting for them in perfect battle formation. "Admiral," reported his tactical officer, "Corvan fleet is moving to attack formation. They're following Battle Pattern 7, just as intelligence predicted." Petrov nodded. Battle Pattern 7 was over 300 years old. The humans had studied it extensively and knew exactly how to counter it. More importantly, they had better weapons, better shields, and better ships than the Corvins could possibly imagine. "The Corvins are hailing us, sir," called the communications officer. "They're demanding our surrender." Petrov almost smiled. "Put them through." The main screen flickered and the image of a massive Corvin war leader appeared. Its rocky skin was covered in battle scars and its small eyes glowed with confidence. When it spoke, its voice sounded like grinding stone. "Human fleet," it roared. "You are outnumbered and outgunned. Surrender now and we will allow you to die quickly." Petrov stood up slowly, adjusting his uniform. He was a small man compared to the alien on the screen, but his calm confidence was unsettling. "I am Fleet Admiral Petrov of the Human Third Fleet," he said politely. "You are trespassing in human space. I suggest you turn around and go home." The Corvin leader made a sound that might have been laughter. "Human space? This system belongs to the Corvin Empire now. We have 800 ships. You have barely 200. Simple mathematics." "Mathematics," Petrov repeated thoughtfully. "Yes, let's talk about mathematics." He gestured to his tactical officer, who began transmitting data to the Corvin fleet. 800 ships, you said. Built using technology that is approximately 400 years old. Crewed by warriors trained in tactics that haven't changed in millennia. Armed with weapons designed by the same engineers who built ships for your great-grandfathers. The Corvin leader's confidence began to waver as he studied the data his own computers were receiving. The human ships were not just newer than his. They were so advanced that his computers couldn't even identify most of their weapon systems. "Now," Petrov continued, "let me tell you about my fleet. 200 ships, yes, but each one built using technology your people have never seen. Each one crewed by officers who have studied every battle your people have ever fought. Each one armed with weapons that your shields cannot stop." He sat back down in his command chair. "So yes, let's do the mathematics. 800 old ships with outdated weapons facing 200 ships that are essentially from the future. What do you think the result will be?" The Corvin leader growled angrily. "You speak big words, human, but words do not win battles. Attack formation. Destroy them all!" The Corvin fleet moved forward, just as their ancient tactics demanded. They formed up in the traditional battle wedge, with their heaviest ships in front and their smaller vessels protecting the flanks. It was the same formation their ancestors had used to conquer half the galaxy. Petrov watched calmly as 800 enemy ships bore down on his position. "Some things never change," he said quietly. "Fire." What happened next lasted exactly 14 minutes, though it felt much longer to the Corvins. The human ships didn't just attack. They demonstrated technologies that seemed impossible. Weapons that could fire through shields, missiles that could change direction in ways that defied physics. Energy beams that got stronger as they traveled instead of weaker. But the most shocking thing was what happened to the Corvin ships themselves. As the battle progressed, the aliens discovered that their own vessels were turning against them. Ships that had been fighting humans suddenly began attacking other Corvin vessels. Weapon systems activated without orders. Engine systems shut down at critical moments. "What's happening?" the Corvin leader demanded as his own ship began to shake and spark around him. "Nanite technology," Petrov explained helpfully. "For the past century, human engineers have been improving alien military equipment, making repairs, upgrading systems, installing new components. What you didn't know is that everything we built included microscopic machines that could be activated remotely." On the screen, the Corvin leader watched in horror as his mighty fleet was systematically destroyed or captured. The human ships weren't just winning, they were converting enemy vessels to their own use. "Your ships now belong to us," Petrov continued. "Your crews are being placed in safe stasis chambers. They won't be harmed, but they won't be fighting anymore either. As for your vessels, they'll make excellent additions to our fleet." Within 14 minutes, the Corvin 8th Fleet had ceased to exist. Some ships had been destroyed, but most had simply changed sides. 800 Corvin vessels were now flying under human control, their weapons turned toward the next enemy fleet that dared to challenge humanity. The pattern repeated across the galaxy. In the Rigel sector, the Vectar swarm discovered that their biological ships were no longer under their control. Human biowarfare specialists had developed viruses that could rewrite DNA in real time, turning living vessels into human assets. The massive swarm that had been heading toward human space suddenly found itself attacking other Vectar forces instead. In the Vega system, The ethereal collective learned that humanity had mastered technologies they thought were impossible. The ethereals could manipulate matter at the quantum level, but humans had learned to manipulate the fundamental forces that governed reality itself. Ethereal battle groups that tried to phase out of normal space found themselves trapped in dimensional pockets created by human science. But perhaps the most shocking discovery for the aliens was that they weren't fighting multiple, separate enemies. They were fighting the same opponent everywhere at once. Every alien fleet that moved against human targets found itself facing perfectly prepared defenses. Every alien strategy was countered before it could be implemented. Every alien communication was intercepted and decoded. Humanity had spent 2,000 years seeding the galaxy with technology, establishing supply lines, and building infrastructure. Every uninhabited system they had been allowed to settle was now revealed to be a fortress. Every trade mission had been reconnaissance. Every diplomatic contact had been intelligence gathering. The aliens had thought they were generously allowing humanity to exist in a small corner of space. In reality, humans had been quietly taking control of the entire galaxy. General Morrison sat in the command center on Earth, watching reports come in from across the galaxy. Every few minutes, another alien fleet was destroyed or captured. Every few hours, another alien world fell under human control. The war that was supposed to last for years was effectively over in less than a week. "Sir," reported his aide, "we're receiving surrender requests from the hegemony of suns, the Crystal Empire and the Void Walkers. That brings the total to 7 species that want to negotiate terms." Morrison nodded grimly. "What about the other 5? "Still fighting, sir. But their fleets are scattered and their supply lines are cut. Intelligence estimates they'll be forced to surrender within the month." The general studied the tactical display showing the entire galaxy. Red dots showed alien military positions, but there were fewer and fewer of them every hour. Blue dots showed human forces, and they were everywhere. "Any word from the Galactic Council?" he asked. "They're requesting an emergency meeting, sir. They want to discuss terms for ending the hostilities." Morrison almost laughed. "Terms? They declared war on us. They voted unanimously to destroy humanity. Now they want to negotiate? What are your orders, sir?" Morrison thought about the millions of humans who had died in the First War 2,000 years ago. He thought about the centuries of preparation his people had endured. He thought about the arrogance of aliens who had assumed humanity would always be weak and helpless. "Tell them we'll meet," he said finally, "but make it clear that we'll be dictating terms, not negotiating them. The age of alien dominance in this galaxy is over." As reports continued to pour in from across the galaxy, one thing became perfectly clear. The aliens had made a terrible mistake. They had awakened an enemy that had spent 2,000 years preparing for exactly this moment. And now they were learning what humans could accomplish when they stopped holding back. Cold smiles and new realities. 6 months after the aliens had declared war on humanity, the remnants of the once mighty Galactic Council met in emergency session aboard a refugee fleet. The great crystal halls where they had once made laws for the entire galaxy were now rubble floating in space. The 12 species that had voted unanimously to destroy humanity were scattered, broken, and desperate. 3 alien civilizations had been completely conquered. Their military forces were destroyed, their governments dissolved, and their populations now lived under human protection. 4 others had surrendered unconditionally, begging for mercy and offering everything they had to make the fighting stop. The remaining 5 species were still technically at war, but their fleets were shattered and their worlds blockaded. High Counselor Vexitharn of the Ethereal Collective was one of the few alien leaders still alive and free. The ancient being's energy form flickered weakly as it materialized in the refugee ship's makeshift council chamber. Around it, the surviving representatives of what had once been the most powerful civilizations in the galaxy sat in defeat. "How did this happen?" whispered the Zephyrian delegate, its beautiful wings now torn and dull. "We had overwhelming numbers. We had superior technology. We had thousands of years of military experience." The Corvan representative, its rocky skin cracked and scarred from recent battles, rumbled bitterly. "The humans lied to us. They pretended to be weak while building the largest military force in galactic history." "They didn't lie," Vextharn corrected sadly. "We simply refused to listen. For 2,000 years, they tried to tell us through trade negotiations and diplomatic contacts. Their manufacturing capacity, Their technological advancement, their military preparation. The evidence was always there, but they seemed so peaceful, protested a Vectar survivor. They followed every rule, honored every treaty, never showed aggression. Exactly, said a new voice. The aliens turned to see Fleet Admiral Zhang Mei entering the chamber, accompanied by a small delegation of human officers. The humans were not armed and showed no signs of hostility, but their very presence made the alien representatives nervous. Zhang Mei looked around the room, studying the beings who had once considered themselves the masters of the galaxy. They looked older now, tired and beaten. The arrogance and confidence they had shown 6 months ago was completely gone. You mistake self-control for weakness, she continued, taking a seat at the table. You thought that because we chose peace, we were incapable of war. You never considered that maybe we were just being polite. Vextharn's form brightened slightly as it addressed the human admiral. We miscalculated. We thought the Armistice was our gift to a lesser species. We see now it was your gift to us, Zhang Mei nodded slowly. The Armistice served its purpose. It gave us time to grow up, to learn, to become something more than the frightened, angry children who first stumbled into your galaxy. She gestured toward a holographic display that showed the current state of the galaxy. Human fleets patrolled everywhere, maintaining order and protecting the populations of conquered worlds. The question now, she continued, is what we do with this galaxy we never wanted to rule. The alien representatives exchanged nervous glances. They had come here hoping to negotiate some kind of peace deal, but they had no idea what humanity actually wanted. The humans could have destroyed every alien species completely, but they hadn't. They could have enslaved entire populations, but instead they seemed to be protecting them. The aliens couldn't understand human motivations. What are your terms? Asked the Corvan representative finally. Zhang Mei smiled, but it wasn't a warm expression. First, all military forces belonging to species that declared war on humanity will be permanently disbanded. You will be allowed to keep police forces for internal security, but no weapons capable of interstellar warfare. The aliens winced, but they had expected this. Second, she continued, all interstellar trade and communication will be supervised by human administrators. Nothing moves between star systems without our knowledge and approval. This was harder to accept, but still reasonable given the circumstances. Third, any species that wishes to maintain independence will accept human observers in their government. These observers will have veto power over any decisions that might affect galactic security. The Zephyrian delegate spread its wings in distress. You're asking us to give up our sovereignty. Zhang Mei's expression grew colder. You gave up your sovereignty when you declared war on us. These terms are not negotiable. The only choice you have is whether to accept them and keep your civilization, or reject them and face the consequences. And what are the consequences? Vextharn asked quietly. Complete absorption into human space, Zhang Mei replied without hesitation. Your species will be relocated to worlds of our choosing. Your cultures will be preserved in museums. Your children will be raised as human citizens. You will cease to exist as independent civilizations. The silence in the room was absolute. The alien representatives finally understood the scope of their defeat. Humanity wasn't just militarily superior. They held the power of life and death over entire species. There is another option, Zhang Mei said after letting them absorb this information. Total cooperation. Species that prove they can be trusted partners rather than potential threats will be given more freedom. They will be allowed to participate in the new galactic government we're establishing. A government ruled by humans, the Corvan representative said bitterly. A government that ensures this kind of war never happens again, Zhang Mei corrected. For 2,000 years, you species have fought among yourselves, enslaved weaker races, and committed atrocities across the galaxy. The only reason there was any peace at all was because you were afraid of each other. She stood up and walked to the holographic display. Look at what's happened in just 6 months of human administration. Trade is flowing more freely than it has in centuries. Piracy has virtually ended. Border conflicts have stopped. Population growth is up across all species, because people aren't afraid of being killed in pointless wars. The aliens looked at the data and had to admit she was right. Despite being conquered, most worlds were actually more prosperous and peaceful than they had been under alien rule. You're asking us to trust you, Vextharn said. No, Zhang Mei replied. I'm telling you that trust is irrelevant. You will behave properly because you have no other choice. Your children might learn to trust us if we do our job well, but your generation will simply have to accept the new reality. One of the surviving alien delegates, a crystalline being from the Silicon hegemony, spoke up with a voice like breaking glass. What if we refuse all of your terms? What if we choose to fight to the end? Zhang Mei turned to look at the delegate directly. Her smile was cold and sharp. Then you'll discover what humans are really capable of when we stop being polite. The war you just experienced? That was us being gentle. We used non-lethal weapons wherever possible. We tried to preserve your populations and infrastructure. We gave your military forces chances to surrender. She paused, letting the implications sink in. If you force us to fight a war of extinction, you'll learn why our ancestors were so eager to accept that armistice 2,000 years ago. You'll discover what happens when humans stop caring about being the good guys. The aliens stared at her in shock. What they had experienced, the complete destruction of their military forces, the conquest of their worlds, the end of their independence, that had been humanity holding back. I recommend you accept our terms, Zhang Mei said, returning to her seat. Because the alternative is much worse than anything you can imagine. The meeting continued for several more hours, with the aliens asking questions and trying to understand the details of their new situation. But the outcome was never in doubt. They would accept human rule because they had no other choice. As the session ended and the alien delegates prepared to return to their ships, Vextharn approached Zhang Mei privately. Admiral, the ancient being said, may I ask you something? Of course. Do you think this is justice? Punishing entire civilizations for the decisions of their leaders? Zhang Mei considered the question carefully. 2,000 years ago, your civilizations tried to commit genocide against humanity. Every man, woman, and child on Earth was supposed to die simply because you didn't want competition. We survived that and we forgave it. We accepted a peace treaty and honored it completely. She looked out at the stars through the ship's viewports. Then after 2 millennia of peace, you decided to try again. Not because we had done anything wrong, but because you thought we had grown weak. You wanted to finish what your ancestors started. She turned back to the ethereal. So yes, I think this is justice. Your species had 2,000 years to learn how to coexist peacefully. Instead, you chose war. Now you get to live with the consequences of that choice. Vextharn flickered sadly. And if we had chosen differently? If we had honored the armistice? Zhang Mei's smile became slightly warmer. Then you would still be free. Humanity never wanted to rule the galaxy. We just wanted to be left alone to develop in peace. You could have had that. All you had to do was keep your word. Thank you for watching and comment for next part.